Welcome to MCN and the Super Naked class of 2021, and we're here today to see which one of these is the best. So every year, Super Nakeds, straight barred, super bikes, whatever you want to call them, get ever more powerful, ever more technical, ever more exciting. And that's no surprise really, because Super Nakeds really are the new sports bikes for our generation. You know, people don't like getting crunched up on race replicas anymore. And what Super Nakeds give you is the performance of a super bike, but a little bit of practicality. It gives you a bike you can use every day, you can go touring on, and you can do track days. So that's what makes all of these bikes here incredible, without exception. They're all mentally fast, they all handle brilliantly, and they're all full of tech. For 2021, 4 of these bikes have been updated or completely renewed, and the Aprilia here is, so far, our favourite Super Naked ever since 2015, when it became an 1100. So for this year, it's got a few changes. So obviously the looks are different. You've got a different nose, you've got different bodywork with wings, slightly smaller tank. Actually looks like the old RSV Millie, I think. Different seat. The chassis is more or less the same, but the swing arm is underbraced, and that comes off the RSV 4 factory, the new one. The engine is still largely the same. It's Euro 5. It's got a new exhaust, some new components, same power, 173 bhp. It's also got new electronics, new IMU, so they're cleverer and smoother. The biggest difference is when you're riding, when you're looking at the cockpit, is you've got a new colour dash, which is much easier to read than before. So fundamentally it's a very similar bike, but a few nice little tweaks, and they probably have done that really to try and stay on top with the barrage of new competition. And the Aprilia costs just over £18,000. Then we've got the Ducati STREETFIGHTER V4S. Now this came out in 2020, and it is every inch the naked Panigale V4S superbike, and it's barely tamed at all. So this has got 205 bhp, which is incredible. It's got an engine derived from the MotoGP bike, 2014 Desmo Sedici, all the bells and whistles. This has changed very slightly for 2021. It's got a different rear exhaust manifold. It's shorter, it's narrow diameter, and it gives the bike a lot more torque, which the old bike kind of lacked a little bit. It was a little bit peaky, a little bit revvy. This is the most expensive of the bunch at just over £20,000. It's big money. BMW. This is something we've been waiting for a long time. This is a completely new bike for 2021. So this is based heavily on the Generation 4 S1000RR. It's got the Superbike chassis, the Superbike engine, but without shift cam. So this engine makes 163 bhp, which is the same as the old one actually. Semi-active suspension, full electronics, colour dash, and also this is the cheapest of the bunch. So this is an S1000R Sport, which costs £14,100, but this is the M package version, so it's got lighter wheels and a few other bits and bobs, which brings up to 17. But if you ignore those tweaks, which don't make a lot of difference to the way it rides, this is kind of on the face of it the best value. And then the next brand new bike for 2021, Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS. So Triumph have done a little bit of an about turn with the Speed Triple. They've always been about being the best naked road bike, the Speed Triple. It was never quite a super naked, never quite what you think a naked super bike should be. But now they've decided to join the power race. So this has got 178 bhp, brand new engine, brand new chassis, Olin suspension, but it's not semi-active, full suite of rider aids, lean sensitive, colour dash, and really this is very track focused. It's got track day tyres, Metzeler Racetech K3s, so it'd be interesting to see how it figures as a road bike compared to the old one, and how it fits in with the others. And then last but by no means least is the KTM 1290 Super Duke R. So this came out last year, it's unchanged for this year, and this is a brute of a thing. Again, it's got 178 bhp. It costs just over £15,000, but you've got to pay extra for the full suite of electronics. Not that much extra, but you should kind of get it included in the price. And it's got the least sporty tyres as well, which is a little bit strange. But that aside, this is the bike for somebody who wants a big capacity supermoto style super naked. Now there are some exceptions from our lineup which you may wonder where they are. So there's the MT10 SP. That's a great bike, but it's a little bit long in the tooth now, and in all the group tests we've done it's finished behind everyone else, so that's not included. You could also say that the ZH2 could be included in this group, but really it's too heavy to be what we consider a proper super naked. It's not really a super bike in spirit, it's a little bit more cruiser like, so that's not here. And then there's the MV Agusta Brutale 1000 RR, which costs 28 grand, so that's definitely not here. So let's go and see what they're like on the road.
Well, what's not to like about the Ducati? But not much. It is it's proper good. This is the bike everyone wanted. This is the proper naked Panigale, full fat. It shares a lot of similarities with the Aprilia. Obviously it's a V4, but this V4 is derived from a MotoGP engine, the 2014 Desma Sedici. Makes the most power here, 205 bhp. Flipping fast, and it's got the best of the best everything. It's got Öhlins semi-active suspension, proper brakes, proper Brembo stylomers. The tyres on it are kind of fast road stroke track day tyres, not quite at the level of the Triumph or the Aprilia, but still fantastic. Pirelli Diablo Rosso Corsa 2 doesn't sound like a traditional V4. It's more a Berblin V-twin, which is, it's like a big double twin if you like. It's got some bass on it, more bass than a Carl Cox Techno Disco. Brakes are phenomenal, the steering is phenomenal. I mean, this thing really comes into its own when you take it on the track, really, where the electronics are just foolproof. The suspension's got tons of control, it's ridiculously fast, and it's beautiful as well. It is, especially in this matte black, it's bellissimo, or bellissima I think, because it's a female. So what are the cons? Well, one of the things about this bike is it is very serious. It's not really that playful. Now for 2021 there is a lot more torque, so it's got more instant power, but all this bike wants to do is go fast, which is fine. But you know, that's not always what you want. You really need to take it to a track to get the best out of it, and when you do, the lack of fairing becomes a problem. So it's in a kind of a strange kind of middle ground. It's also very expensive, so this is over £20,000, which is 6 grand more than the base BMW S1000R Sport. It is a lot of cash, but it's a proper little dream bike. It's a proper little slice of Italian exotica. I love the wings, I love the controls, I love the dash. I don't like the fact that the heated grips button doesn't operate the heated grips. You've got to pay extra for that, which is a little bit mean. But for 2021, Ducati really have come of age with making their super bikes and this super naked a lot easier to ride. This is very plush, quite docile if you want it to be, but just lacks a little bit of fun. It takes itself very seriously. Who cares? It is brilliant. I love it, and it's comfortable. So like the BMW, the Triumph is completely new for 2021. So what are the pros? Well, Triumph have made it much more racy compared to the old bike. The engine power and character is it's a proper super naked now. It's angry sounding. Let's give it some anger. It's very, very quick, and the chassis really is much, much sharper, so it's very, very nimble. Brakes probably good. It's got great tyres on it in Metzeler Racetech K3RRs, and it's much more of a performance bike than it's ever been. What I really like as well is the comfort. It's nice and spacious. I really like this dash. If I can make it do it, you can kind of give it a look at that. It's like a Salvador Dali kind of squash clock kind of effect when you go through all the modes, and it's nice and smooth as well. Mirrors are good. It's a great little road bike, but there are a few little cons. So the cons on the Speed Triple are the fact it's a little bit too racy. I think Triumph have gone a little bit too far making it into a track bike, and that was kind of proven when we took it to Donington when we rode it at the launch. It's phenomenal on track. The more you push it, the harder you work the engine, the better it is. But for the road, although the engine's really, really lovely, really peachy, the suspension's too stiff basically. I'm not talking about damping, it's just stiffly sprung. And because it's not electronic, there's not much you can do other than get down on your hands and knees and get your screwdrivers out and start twiddling with it. That's the only thing really that spoils it as a road bike, and it's not something you notice straight away. But after a while on bumpy roads like this, it starts to get a little bit tiring. So what is it that makes the TUONO so special? Why has it been our best super naked since 2015? Well, it's got absolutely everything. It's got the best tyres, it's got the best suspension with semi-active Öhlins, it's got the best brakes, it's got fantastic electronics which have been improved for 2021, but really for normal riding you're not really going to notice much of a difference. It's more for the track where the electronics will be less intrusive really, a little bit more accurate. But fundamentally it's also got the best engine. This V4 is just a phenomenal thing. It's just a riot of, let's have a little listen. That sound is just addictive. It's a proper V4 sound. I mean, the DUCATI is also a V4. It's a great engine derived from MotoGP, but it's designed to act like a big V-twin with its twin pulse firing order, and it sounds like a big V-twin as well. It's quite clattery, it's quite mechanical, but this engine just yowls. It's like got this ghostly wail. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And then you've got all the practical stuff. It's very, very comfortable on cruise control. You've got a little bit of bodywork which some may say doesn't make it a super naked, but you're very grateful of that when you're on the move. The best thing about it as well is, you know, an RSV4 is a fantastic superbike, but not many people can enjoy it because it's so small, and this riding position lets you enjoy an RSV4 basically. The chassis, the handling, the ride quality on this is phenomenal, just so velvety. Are there any drawbacks? Are there any cons? Well, not many, to be honest. It is quite aggressive, but that's what super nakeds are supposed to be. In the whole scheme of things, it's not too expensive, but £18,100 is still a lot of money, really. If you want one of the best road-going performance bikes you can buy, basically this is it. TUONO V4 Factory, just a phenomenal thing. Well, let me level with you now. This BMW S1000R Sport is the best road bike of the bunch. As you'd expect, it's a BMW. It is really, really comfortable. The engine may be a little bit characterless, but it's very, very smooth. There's loads of grunt. The steering is really nice and light. Brakes are fantastic. It's got cruise control, heated grips. This dash is one of the best dashes in the business, really nice and clear. There's lots of nice functions. You've got turn-by-turn sat-nav if you link it to your phone. This is a little accessory screen which takes a little bit of wind blast off you on the motorway. This is actually my long-term test bike for 2021, and we're late summer now, and I've done a shed load of miles, all of these miles, touring around the UK, and it has been absolutely phenomenal. I was really excited to ride this when it first came out because I had an S1000R back in the day and absolutely loved it. I raced an S1000RR. I was really looking forward to riding it, and it is phenomenal. And I was expecting it to finish quite high up in the order just because I've lived with it for so long. And one of the things with these group tests, if you own one of these bikes, you're going to absolutely love it. It's only when you compare them back to back where you see the differences, and when you jump off any of the other bikes you realise how little pizzazz this bike's got. Hasn't got the get up and go of the TUONO or the DUCATI or any of those. You've got to rev the engine for best results, which is fine, and it is phenomenally fast. But this is a test of super nakeds. This is a very, 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 very good sports naked. It's no longer really a super duper naked like the others because it just hasn't got that wow factor. It needs to jump out your hands when you accelerate. This bike really needs the 200 horsepower shift cam engine in it from the RR. Not because you need it, because as this has proved to me all summer, you don't need it, but you know, for it to really stand out, it needs to be something special. Also, I've done a couple of track days on this as well, and while it does handle phenomenally because it is an S1000RR basically with no fairing, it's a bit bouncy. There's not much you can do with the suspension to really firm it up properly. But you know, as a road bike, it's the one I would choose for a long journey and to just live with day to day. It's really, really nice. It just really flatters you. But is it a super naked? Don't really think it is now. Oh boy, KTM 1290 Super Duke R. This is a bit of a funny one really for me. I sort of flip between absolutely loving it and not loving it so much. When I'm in the mood, this is something else. I mean, just the riding position, look, looks like you're riding over, looking over the edge of a cliff. It's like a big supermoto, and it acts just like a big supermoto. 1.3 litre V-twin engine, it's just bonkers. It never ever lacks speed or grunt. You need a racetrack to really get the best out of this, like you do all of them really. And on track, this thing is phenomenal. I mean, the development of this was led by Jeremy McWilliams, and you sort of feel the hallmarks of Jeremy's bikes really. I've been lucky enough to ride some of his factory race bikes before, and they're all really nice and plush. They steer sweetly, brakes are fantastic. I mean, this thing handles beautifully. He's also responsible for the 890 DUCATI, which is one of the best handling bikes around. You know, it's aggressive, this bike. It sounds amazing. It's got all the bells and whistles, it's got all the electronics. You've got to pay extra for some of them, which is a little bit of a swizz. And it's just a really nice, lovely, lovely super naked. It's very, very comfortable. But here comes the but. I mean, look at this switch gear. It's a real mess. If you've got thick gloves on, it's hard to navigate around the dash. The dash is a little bit overcomplicated, although it's nice and bright, it's nice and easy to fathom. You've got lots of buttons everywhere. One of the most frustrating things for me is a super naked that should be a lot of fun. You know, you look at all of their press material, they're pulling wheelies and doing skids, but like all the bikes here, it's strangled by electronics, and you can turn the electronics off like you can on the other bikes, but on the KTM it's particularly difficult. If you turn everything off to have a bit of fun, they all reset every time you turn the bike off and on again, which isn't the end of the world. But if you're going to buy a 1.3 litre super naked that handles like a super bike, you want to use it like one of those as well. And sometimes, you know, just trying to turn everything off and navigate around the dash can be frustrating. That aside, it's a super naked in every sense of the word, and it does it extremely well, and it's a challenger for top honours.
All of these motorcycles are incredible. They all deliver superbike performance to the extreme, but they're all really easy to live with because they've got comfortable riding positions, and that's the essence of a super naked really. But they all deliver their performance and their riding experience in a very different way. So for example, if I wanted to do a long trip now, I'd stick my rucksack on and I'd jump on the BMW. If I was going to do a track day, I'd get the Aprilia or the Triumph. If I wanted to pull wheelies all day, I'd go on the KTM. And if I just wanted to sit down with a cup of tea and just pour over the beauty of a motorcycle, it's going to be the Ducati all day long. It seems a shame to have to put them in some kind of order, but that's what we're here to do. So, which is the best? Well, the best road bike here, without question, is the BMW. It's very, very easy to ride. It's very smooth, loads of creature comforts, but as a super naked, it doesn't quite cut it because it hasn't got the engine character or the brutal acceleration of the other bikes. So unfortunately that brings up the rear, but it is the cheapest as well. So if you go for the BMW, you're going to be really, really happy. The Beamer and the Triumph, which is next on the list, are pretty close, quite hard to separate. The reason the Triumph has kind of fallen down the order a little bit is because it perhaps is a little bit too track focused. It's not the kind of bike you would jump on and do long distances on, and the suspension is quite hard, and that can get a little bit jarring after a while, especially if you're riding on bumpy B roads. In third place, the top three are really close actually, is the KTM. So the KTM, when it's good, it is phenomenal. It is like a big cubed supermoto, and you can pull 120 mile an hour wheelies on it for fun. Not that you would on a public road, of course. But as a road bike, you've got to be in the mood for it. It always wants to play, and the electronics are a little bit fussy, the switch gear is a little bit fussy, and the fact that you've got to pay extra for the electronics, you haven't got the best tyres, kind of smacks of cost cutting a little bit, but those things are easily cured. But it is a great bike. In second place is the Ducati. The changes this year have transformed the Street Fighter actually. It's got a lot more grunt, which makes it a lot more playful, and it is beautiful, but it's a lot of money, especially if you compare it to the BMW, and it is very, very serious. So serious in fact, it kind of feels like a superbike. It only really wants to go fast, and although it will potter around town, you kind of feel like it's a waste of its talents if you go slow on it. So that means that the Aprilia is still MCN's super naked of choice. It's not a lot different to the previous model. The changes don't really add up to a lot on the road. The electronics and the swing arm and things like that are more benefits you're going to feel on track. But the reason the Aprilia is still top dog is because it just does everything. You can potter around on it going really slowly, you can go touring on it, it's got cruise control, you've got some bodywork on it. The engine note is the best of the bunch. It is just a wild engine note. The ride quality, the grip, the handling, it just does absolutely everything. If you've dreamt of the best superbike you can get your hands on and something you can actually use every day, the TUONO is it. So let's all tip our hats to Aprilia and celebrate the best super naked on the planet in 2021, the TUONO V4 factory.